Give me your cabin for prom night for free. That's how it started. This entitled brat storms into my auto shop like he owns the place, demanding my $2,000 Memorial Day rental as if I'm some kind of servant. I'm standing there, hands smeared in motor oil, thinking, is this kid seriously insane? Then, like a scene out of a bad movie, Mama Karen rolls up. My son gets what he wants, she announces, smug grin plastered on her face. I have connections everywhere. My blood starts to boil. I mention casually that my wife might object to threats. She actually laughs. Sweetheart, I run this town, she says, voice dripping with condescension. Your little housewife can't touch me, ma'am, I reply, trying to keep my temper in check. You just picked a fight with the wrong family entirely. Comment where you're watching, because trust me, Karen has no clue what she just unleashed. I thought this was going to be another quiet Tuesday at Rivera's Auto Repair. Coffee going cold while I'm elbow deep in a busted transmission. Classic rock humming from the radio, the familiar scent of motor oil heavy in the air. Then this red BMW rolls up, shining like it just left a showroom, and I know immediately that my afternoon is about to go straight to hell. Out steps Jack Collins, 18 years old, polo shirt probably costing more than most people's car payments. Walking with a swagger that screams, I've never heard the word no in my life. This kid rotates through a different expensive car every week. Latest tech in his hands, designer threads on his back, acting like he's headed to a country club gala instead of negotiating with a grease monkey. Jack strolls into my shop without so much as a glance at the please wait sign and marches straight up to me. Mr. Rivera, I need to talk to you about your cabin, he declares. No preamble, no pleasantries, just demand. I wipe my hands on a rag, spin to face this entitled prince, and immediately spot trouble brewing in those icy blue eyes. What about it, Jack? I ask. His grin stretches wider, as though he's about to pitch me the deal of a lifetime. I need it for prom night, he says. Memorial Day weekend, the whole weekend, actually. I explain patiently that the cabin has been booked since last August by my regulars, the Henderson family, faithful renters for 3 years. Jack's face falls like someone just told him Santa Claus isn't real. He can't even process that his whims don't instantly override other people's plans. But it's for prom, he insists, repeating the magic words as if they hold power over contracts and schedules. My girlfriend's family is really important. We need somewhere special for pictures. The entitlement is staggering. He honestly believes social events take precedence over legal agreements. Then I hear heels clicking sharply on concrete. My survival instincts kick into overdrive. Christina Collins emerges from that BMW like she's stepping onto the red carpet of a political gala. And wow, this woman knows how to make an entrance. 52, but she looks like she's 6 years younger, every inch of her meticulously maintained. Blazer likely costing more than my monthly cabin income. Leather portfolio thick enough to choke a horse. Christina carries the kind of authority that makes men suddenly fascinated by their shoelaces. 6-year HOA president, Pine Valley knows not to cross her unless you want your life dismantled, piece by piece. She doesn't argue, she annihilates. She steps into my shop without invitation, her heels announcing her like a drumbeat, and takes control instantly. Mr. Rivera, she says, voice smooth silk wrapped around steel. I understand there's been some confusion about the cabin situation. No hello, no small talk, just reframing my legitimate business decision as a problem she must fix. I explain again, calmly, that Memorial Day weekend is fully booked. Christina listens, all patience and calculated charm, cataloging my every reaction, measuring my resolve, calculating exactly how much pressure it will take to make me fold. This is reconnaissance for psychological warfare, not a casual conversation. Opens her thick portfolio, pulls out official-looking documents, and starts building what looks like a case on my workbench. That's when I decide to play my ace. Just so you know, Christina, I say, eyes locked on hers, my wife, Laura, is chief of police. Words hang in the air, waiting for the reaction of someone used to bending the rules. But instead of surprise or caution, Christina laughs genuine amusement, as if I just told the funniest joke of the week. Mr. Rivera, she says, still smiling like she knows secrets I can't imagine. I work with county officials regularly. Local jurisdictions understand the importance of cooperation. The subtle dismissiveness toward Laura is glaring. From her limited perspective, she sees a small-town cop married to a mechanic, not the federal agent quietly dismantling corruption. In her county for the past 18 months, Jack shifts uncomfortably beside her. For the first time, he senses that this prom request has escalated far beyond simple negotiation. Christina, meanwhile, is hitting her stride. Leaning against my workbench, radiating unshakable confidence, she delivers her polished lines. Gregory, I call you Gregory. Community cooperation is essential in Pine Valley. Licenses, zoning, permits, inspections, all moving parts must align smoothly. Every word chosen to remind me of the power she thinks she wields. This isn't her first rodeo. She's perfected bureaucratic intimidation, but she hasn't met my family. She hasn't met Laura. She gathers her papers, satisfied she's made her point. expecting me to fold like everyone else. I'll give you some time to think it over. Gregory, step back, see the bigger picture. Hand on the door handle. She delivers the final cut. I hope you make the right choice for everyone's sake. And she's gone, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and the unmistakable pressure of a professional threat. Jack follows, giving me a sheepish, apologetic look, clearly aware that his mother crossed the line. I stand at my shop, mind racing 20 minutes ago. My biggest worry was a stubborn transmission. Now I'm staring down Pine Valley's most powerful woman, and my secret weapon, Laura's authority, is locked behind professional ethics that prevent her from intervening in civil disputes. That evening I carefully relayed the situation to Laura, emphasizing harassment rather than threats. She listens, that calm, assessing cop expression. Honey, she finally says, I can't get involved in civil HOA matters. My position requires neutrality, but document everything, Gregory. Keep detailed records, let the system work. Easy for her to say. She's not facing a woman with county connections and a reputation for getting exactly what she wants. Christina leaves calmly, immediately texting someone. Who is she coordinating with? What connections make her this confident? Then the email hits 5 cancellation emails for Memorial Day. Weekend bookings 5. Not just lost money, that's my entire peak season going down the drain like water through a broken pipe. And here's the kicker. Every single cancellation email said the same thing. Safety concerns and neighborhood disputes. Neighborhood disputes. What neighborhood disputes? Pine Valley had been peaceful, no complaints, no problems until yesterday, when Queen Bee decided my cabin was her personal property. And the worst part, these weren't random bookings. The Henderson family has rented from me for 3 straight years, always pays early, always leaves the cabin spotless. Mrs. Henderson's apology email made my chest tighten. We're so sorry, Gregory, but we received concerning information about potential safety issues around your property. Concerning information from whom? Take a wild guess. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, laptop open, trying to figure out how Christina Collins got my customer contact info when the doorbell rings at 8 a.m. Who shows up that early unless it's an emergency or they're trying to catch you off guard? I open the door to find a man in a suit that probably costs more than my monthly mortgage. Tall, thin, with nervous energy radiating off him like heat off asphalt in July. Mr. Rivera. I'm Richard Collins, Christina's husband, he says. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Richard looks like he hasn't slept in days. Tie crooked, coffee stain on his briefcase. Hands shaking slightly as he hands me official-looking documents. My wife asked me to discuss the cabin situation with you. Perhaps we can find a mutually beneficial solution. The way he reads it, like he's reciting a script someone else wrote, tells me everything I need to know about the Collins household power dynamics. Richard has law credentials. I can see his bar certificate peeking out of the briefcase. But the man screams desperation, constantly checking his watch, glancing at his car, clearly worried his wife will appear out of nowhere to monitor his performance. When he starts reciting county regulations and zoning compliance, his voice steadies. He's far more comfortable quoting legal jargon than engaging in human interaction. Mr. Rivera, my wife has extensive relationships within county planning. She serves on several committees, advisory boards, and community development initiatives. He drones on. I watch his expression falter when he sees mine. He realizes I'm not intimidated, not even a little, because this isn't about committees or advisory boards. It's about raw power, about a woman who decided she wants something that belongs to me. That's when Maria Santos jogs up my driveway in workout gear, like a suburban superhero showing up at the perfect moment. Maria's been my neighbor for 2 years, recently moved from Denver, works in government, travels frequently, and is always friendly at the grocery store. Oh, hi Gregory, she says, all smiles and casual neighborly concern. I was finishing my run and saw you had company. Everything okay? Richard goes pale at her presence. I catch the subtle shift in his body language. He knows who she is, or at least he suspects she's not someone to underestimate. Maria chats casually, but I can see her cataloging every detail, mentally taking notes like a professional investigator. Business dispute resolution, she says conversationally. You know you can document everything, right? Paper trails are critical when dealing with complex situations involving multiple parties and potential regulatory issues. After Richard scurries off with his tail between his legs, Maria lingers just long enough to give me neighborly advice. Keep records, take photos of unusual activity, understand your legal rights as a business owner. She doesn't spell it out, but the subtext is crystal clear. Document everything, because things are about to escalate. I spend the rest of the morning researching Christina Collins online. What I uncover is both impressive and terrifying. This isn't just a busybody HOA president throwing her weight around. She sits on the County Planning Commission, chairs the Pine Valley Business Development Board, and runs the Pine Valley Youth Foundation. Her name appears in meeting minutes, planning documents, and local news articles stretching back years. She's built a spiderweb of influence touching every corner of local government. No wonder she laughed when I mentioned Laura. Connections matter more than badges. Favors outweigh laws. and knowing the right people is more powerful than being in the right. But there's something suspicious. The more I dig into her background, the more questions I have about her lifestyle. The Youth Foundation gets over $200,000 annually in federal grants. Yet I can't find details about what programs they actually run. Website full of generic corporate jargon. Social media nearly invisible. Office address is just a P.O. box downtown. For an organization that supposedly serves hundreds of kids, they're mysteriously absent in the community. Then there's Christina. Personal situation: BMW. Designer home in Pine Valley's most exclusive neighborhood, paid for by a non-profit director's salary and whatever Richard earns as a small-town lawyer. The numbers don't add up. There's more here than community service and HOA politics. Maria's advice about documentation suddenly seems brilliant. Thursday afternoon, the county inspection notice arrives via certified mail. My hands shake as I sign for it. Official government correspondence rarely brings good news. I tear open the envelope expecting disaster and find exactly what Christina promised: a formal notice requiring a comprehensive zoning compliance inspection within 10 days. Failure to comply could result in immediate suspension of my business license and fines up to $25,000. And here's the part that chills me to the bone. Attached to the notice, a handwritten note on county letterhead: Mr. Rivera, this inspection was requested by a third party with significant county connections. I suggest you prepare thoroughly. Some people don't like to lose a friend. Even the county inspector felt compelled to issue a warning. What had Christina arranged that made government employees risk their jobs to alert me? That evening, Laura comes home, exhausted from her classified work. I tell her what's happening with the cabin. She gives me that look, the one that means she's fighting every professional instinct to protect her family. Honey, she says, precise and measured. I can't get involved in civil HOA matters. My position requires absolute neutrality in community disputes, especially involving prominent local citizens. But I can see it tearing her up to watch me under attack by someone who shouldn't be crossing law enforcement families. Laura pours wine, sits beside me, offering the kind of advice any citizen might receive. Document everything, Gregory, keep detailed records, follow regulations, and let the system work. Easy for her to say she's not facing a woman with county connections and a personal grudge. I read that handwritten warning over and over. Some people don't like to lose. At first I wasn't scared, but digging deeper into Christina's background, holy hell, ever peel layers off a bomb? The more you uncover, the more dangerous it seems. You can't stop peeling because you need to know when it will explode. 3 days of research later, I realize Christina Collins isn't just a power-hungry HOA president. She's built an empire, and my little cabin business just became a threat to something much bigger. The Pine Valley Youth Foundation nags at me like a splinter. $200,000 in federal grants, but no one can tell me what they actually do with it. Maria, which becomes my unofficial research partner, careful to frame it as neighborly interest rather than professional involvement. Thursday morning, we sit on my back deck, coffee in hand, casually chatting, but she's asking pointed questions about Christina's finances and political connections that read like they came straight from an investigation manual. You know, Gregory, she says, stirring her coffee thoughtfully, legitimate nonprofits are transparent. They want publicity, community involvement, donor recognition, ones that keep a low profile. Red flags. She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. Maria is giving me a masterclass in financial investigation without saying it. She suggests public records, campaign finance reports, county meeting minutes, information freely available to anyone who knows what to look for. What I find next explains why Richard Collins looked terrified on my doorstep. Mrs. Carter, an elderly neighbor 3 blocks away, approaches me at the grocery store Saturday morning, nervous, constantly glancing around, clearly worried someone might overhear. I've seen her around, but never talked beyond polite hellos. Today she's carrying something dangerous. Mr. Rivera, she whispers, leaning close. I heard about your trouble with Mrs. Collins. I used to work for the Youth Foundation part-time bookkeeping. About 18 months ago. My heart races. Inside information. From someone who risked everything to tell me. The money doesn't match the programs, she says softly. Federal grants for summer camps that don't exist. After-school programs, with no enrollment. Sports equipment purchased but never delivered. I ask questions. She was fired within a week for raising concerns. Mrs. Carter reaches into her purse and pulls out a worn manila envelope. I kept copies, she admits, guilty and shaking. I shouldn't have, but something felt wrong. The numbers, the transfers, the way Mrs. Collins handled transactions. She hands it to me like it's nuclear secrets, trembling as if passing off evidence that could destroy powerful people. Inside the envelope are photocopied bank statements, grant applications, and expense reports that tell a story of systematic fraud so sophisticated it steals my breath. Money flows into the Pine Valley Youth Foundation from federal sources, then moves through accounts under names I don't recognize, through a network of shell companies and fake vendors. Equipment purchases totaling thousands of dollars leave. No delivery receipts, no inventory records, and no trace of the equipment anywhere. Program costs for activities that never happen. serving children who apparently don't exist, for services never actually delivered. This isn't mismanagement. It isn't sloppy bookkeeping. It's deliberate, organized theft of federal money, a scale that makes my cabin rental income look like pocket change. Miss Carter spent 40 years as a bookkeeper before retiring. She knows the difference between an honest mistake and intentional fraud. What she's showing me is definitely the latter, and it's been going on for years. Have you ever discovered something that makes you question everything you thought you knew about your neighbors? Because this changes everything. And Mrs. Carter's envelope is just the beginning of a financial trail that leads to places I never expected and involves people I thought I could trust. Using Maria's research tips, 1. Start cross-referencing the foundation's suspicious transactions with Christina's campaign finance reports from her city council race 2 years ago. The patterns are disturbingly sophisticated. Money flows from the foundation into a network of shell companies, only to resurface as campaign contributions from supposedly unrelated sources across multiple states. Money laundering disguised as community service, ongoing for at least 3 years. Christina isn't just stealing federal grants, she's using them to buy political influence. No wonder she's so confident in her county connections and dismissive of local law enforcement authority. When you fund campaigns with stolen federal money, local officials tend to look the other way. Meanwhile, Jack Collins starts developing a hobby that reveals just how deep the family dysfunction runs. I notice him lurking around town, carefully, observing his parents' coffee shops when Christina meets county officials, the library when Richard handles legal consultations, park benches with clear sidelines to their house, always with his phone out, always recording. At first, I think he's just curious, trying to understand the family business or preparing for his own political future. Then I see him reviewing recordings in his car outside the county courthouse. Jack isn't studying his parents for pride or learning he's running a blackmail operation, hoping to leverage secrets into bigger allowances, luxury toys, and freedom from oversight. What Jack doesn't realize is that his amateur recordings capture federal crimes, not just embarrassing family secrets. Bribery, money laundering, plans to destroy evidence. The spoiled rich kid has accidentally documented crimes that could send his parents to prison for decades. By Tuesday evening, I have enough documentation to understand the scope of Christina's criminal operation, but not enough concrete proof to go to law enforcement without looking like a conspiracy theorist. Then Richard Collins makes his most desperate move yet. He shows up at my shop after closing, terrified, constantly checking the parking lot for Christina's BMW. This time, he's not bringing legal threats or county paperwork designed to intimidate me. He's carrying a briefcase full of evidence in a story that makes my blood run cold. Pulling me aside, he whispers, "She doesn't know I'm talking to you, but you're in more danger than you realize." Before I can respond, he spots Christina's car returning and goes pale. What has he discovered that terrifies him more than his own wife? Finally, real evidence. After days of piecing together fragments and following paper trails, Richard's desperation hands me a roadmap to Christina's criminal empire. But there's a catch. What you wish for sometimes comes with consequences you didn't anticipate. Richard's documents don't just prove Christina's guilt, they reveal a money laundering operation reaching into county government, involving multiple federal agencies, and putting anyone who knows about it in serious danger. I'm in my kitchen at 2 a.m., surrounded by bank statements and financial records, trying to process the magnitude. This isn't a small-town HOA president abusing authority. This is organized crime disguised as community service and holding enough evidence to bring down half the county's political establishment. The next morning, Maria Santos arrives for another casual neighborly coffee, but I can see the federal agent beneath her casual facade when she reviews Richard's evidence. Her questions are sharper, more technical, and filled with official undertones. "Gregory," she says carefully, "some of these transactions show patterns consistent with structured financial crimes. Federal-level intervention may be required." She explains, theoretically, how federal investigations work, how evidence is preserved, and the legal protections for cooperating citizens. She doesn't directly ask me to become an informant, but the implication hangs in the air like smoke. I notice she leaves with photocopies of everything Richard gave me, maintaining the illusion of casual interest. Meanwhile, Jack Collins continues his amateur blackmail, unaware that he's capturing federal crimes instead of family embarrassment. I spot him at the Pine Valley Diner, phone strategically positioned, recording a lunch conversation he thinks is about allowances and college expenses. What he's actually capturing: detailed discussions of money laundering, bribery schemes, and plans to destroy evidence before the federal audit next month. Christina's behavior starts subtly shifting. Publicly, she maintains her image as the community-minded HOA president, but behind the scenes there are cracks. Closed-door meetings with county officials, calls from her car instead of her office, a sharper edge in conversations with neighbors. The confident, untouchable woman from a week ago is now fighting battles on multiple fronts. Richard's increasing panic, Jack's suspicious behavior, the looming federal audit, and my refusal to back down on the cabin. Mistakes are beginning to appear. Her biggest error comes Friday afternoon, when she attempts direct intimidation. She arrives at my property with a county inspector, a building code official, and a private investigator with professional camera gear. This isn't routine, this is a coordinated attempt to find any violation that can shut down my business. What Christina doesn't know is that Maria has been helping me prepare for this scenario. My cabin is in perfect compliance. Permits are up to date. Documentation complete. The inspection team spends 3 hours looking and finds nothing worse than a loose deck board, which I fix immediately. Christina's reaction reveals her real danger. This was her last legal option. Anything she does from here on out will be illegal, crossing the line from administrative harassment into criminal behavior. That evening, Laura comes home, drained, pouring herself a glass of wine before sitting down. Her tone suggests life-changing news. "Gregory," she says, carefully, "I need to tell you something about my work, something I haven't been able to discuss until now." My heart races. Laura explains that for the past 18 months, she's been leading a federal task force investigating corruption, money laundering, bribery, and election fraud, crossing state lines and involving federal funds. The Pine Valley Youth Foundation has been on their radar for over a year. Suddenly, everything clicks. Her late-night calls, the classified paperwork, Maria's timely appearance in our neighborhood. None of it was coincidental. Laura continues. Federal investigations move slowly, building cases piece by piece. They needed something more: confessions, insider testimony, or evidence of ongoing crimes. Financial crimes alone are historical. Courts want proof that illegal activity is still occurring. Her gaze meets mine. Richard's recordings of criminal conversations, exactly the final piece the task force needed. Before I can react, Maria calls with urgent news. Laura's face turns pale as she hangs up. Something's gone very wrong. Christina Collins just filed a sworn statement with the county sheriff, Laura says, her voice tight, measured. She claims you threatened her during yesterday's inspection and is demanding your immediate arrest for criminal threats and harassment. The words hit me like a physical blow. Christina knows the walls are closing in. Federal investigators have been building a case, and now she's trying to eliminate the threat I represent by having me arrested on false charges. It's a desperate move, but potentially effective. If I'm sitting in jail, I can't testify about what Richard showed me. Can't provide evidence for Laura's task force. As Maria reviews the evidence we've collected, her FBI radio crackles. With an urgent message, her face goes white. She looks at me with something like pity. "We need to move tonight. If we wait until tomorrow," she trails off, unable to finish the sentence. "What deadline are we racing against?" I ask Dot. The answer comes at midnight, a convoy of black SUVs rolling up outside Christina Collins's house. Federal agents poised to execute search warrants before she can destroy evidence or silence witnesses. Laura kisses me goodbye, straps on her tactical gear, and heads into the night to arrest the woman who thought small-town cops didn't understand real power. I watch the task force vehicles disappear into the darkness, uneasy. Something tells me Christina Collins has one more surprise left. By 6 a.m. the raid begins. Helicopters circle overhead, black SUVs line Maple Street like a funeral procession, and the rumble of diesel engines shatters the morning calm. Scent of gun oil mixes with pine-scented mountain air. Then Laura appears in full tactical gear, leading the FBI team. Christina's face when she realizes who's at her door, I'll never forget it. Shock, denial, anger, bargaining, and then hollow-eyed acceptance, the exact expression of someone who just realized they underestimated the wrong person. Gone is the gentlewoman who once smiled at neighbors. In her place stands Chief Laura Madison, federal task force leader, radiating absolute authority, commanding compliance without raising her voice. "Mrs. Collins," Laura says, reading the charges with surgical precision: conspiracy, money laundering, election fraud, racketeering. "You should have taken my husband's warning seriously." The irony is devastating. Christina spent weeks dismissing my husband as powerless, never realizing he's the one person in Pine Valley with the federal authority to dismantle her empire. Her legs buckle under the weight of comprehension. This isn't some county misunderstanding, fixable with phone calls or campaign contributions. This is federal prosecution, federal prison. Her stolen money and influence will become evidence in a trial that will make Colorado headlines. The FBI seizes everything: computers, financial records, phones, filing cabinets, documents, even her designer handbags. Richard Collins is arrested, too, but cooperation during the past weeks means he's charged as a co-conspirator rather than the mastermind. Prison is a relief compared to a life under Christina's control. And then there's Jack Collins, the spoiled teenager who thought he was running a small blackmail scheme, suddenly holds the crown jewel of evidence: his own recordings. What began as extortion for allowances now contains detailed confessions of money laundering, bribery, and witness intimidation. In 30 seconds, Jack goes from potential blackmailer to key federal witness. The realization hits him slowly: his parents aren't just difficult, they're running a criminal organization. Christina, still desperate, makes her final play. She files sworn statements claiming I threatened her and harassed her family, demanding my immediate arrest. A Hail Mary move, but bureaucracy doesn't care about irony or justice. It only cares about procedure. Laura must recuse herself from my case. The sheriff's office, obliged to follow protocol, arrests me. I spend 48 hours in county holding. Life feels fragile. Monday, a small business owner. Wednesday, falsely accused and behind bars. Christina's attempt to destroy me only reinforces her criminal recklessness. But here's the twist she couldn't see coming. Jack Collins realizes his recordings are now federal evidence, making his cooperation critical. Maria, now operating officially as a federal agent, confirms that his amateur surveillance captured details the FBI missed. Discussions about destroying evidence, eliminating witnesses, and fabricating threats to silence people, including me. My time in county jail is itself proof of her criminal intent. Richard's testimony reveals Christina's coercive tactics, including the plot to have me arrested on fabricated charges if legal harassment didn't work. Laura and federal prosecutors quickly recognized that Christina's false accusations constitute obstruction of justice and witness intimidation, adding decades to her potential prison sentence. Jack's recordings are the final domino. Conversations, planning sessions, and bribery schemes captured invisibly, right under the parents' noses. His motivation remains self-interest, but in protecting himself, he becomes the linchpin of a case that will destroy his family's criminal empire completely. Christina Collins, who tried to control and intimidate everyone around her, has no idea the teenager she ignored has already sealed her fate. The community uprising that followed Christina's arrest was swift, decisive, and long overdue. Pine Valley residents, long silenced by fear of HOA retaliation, suddenly found their voices. Over 200 people packed an emergency HOA meeting, the largest attendance in the organization's history, and the mood was electric with anger and demand for reform. Christina's allies on the board, once emboldened by her county connections, discovered urgent reasons to resign rather than remain associated with a federal criminal. The vote to remove Christina from all HOA positions was unanimous, immediately followed by a vote for new leadership committed to transparency, accountability, and resident input. And guess who got nominated for HOA president? Sometimes justice comes in the most unexpected forms. Regional media coverage of the federal arrests shone a spotlight on Pine Valley like never before. Local news headlines screamed HOA president charged in federal money laundering scheme, followed by stories exposing systematic corruption in small-town government. Christina's carefully cultivated reputation as a community leader crumbled, replaced by a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked local authority. The Pine Valley Youth Foundation, which had pocketed hundreds of thousands in federal grants while providing minimal youth services, became a textbook example of non-profit fraud referenced in federal training for years to come. Christina, facing decades in federal prison, refused to change her approach even from detention. She attempted to contact accomplices to destroy evidence and coordinate alibis, believing she could manipulate the system from jail. Her efforts triggered automatic federal monitoring, freezing hidden accounts and revealing her escape plans. Her confidence faltered the moment she tried to access her hidden funds at Pine Valley First National Bank. A careful teller, briefed on the suspicious activity, hesitated and whispered, "Ma'am, are you sure you want to do this?" Through the bank windows, Christina saw unmarked federal vehicles and tactical agents. Every escape route had been cut off. Her empire, meticulously built over years, had been dismantled. The final act came, in person. Laura, in full federal tactical gear, placed handcuffs on Christina Collins while reading her federal charges: conspiracy, money laundering, election fraud, racketeering, obstruction of justice, perjury, and witness intimidation. "Too bad you didn't take my husband's warning seriously," Laura said, her voice icy with satisfaction. Christina's face cycled through shock, rage, despair, and resigned defeat as she realized her criminal empire was gone, destroyed by the one person she had underestimated, a small-town cop with the power of federal authority. Jack Collins, the spoiled teenager who once tried to blackmail his parents for car money, became the star federal witness. His recordings of bribery, money laundering, and witness intimidation, initially made for self-interest, proved pivotal. His cooperation earned him leniency, but he also learned a critical lesson. Even wealth and connections cannot shield anyone from the law. Richard Collins received a lighter sentence due to his cooperation, though his reputation was ruined and his law license revoked. His testimony revealed the fear and manipulation he endured under Christina's control. The aftermath was transformative for Pine Valley. The HOA was rebuilt on transparency and democratic principles. Residents regained their voice, and property values rebounded as the town shed its reputation for corruption. My cabin business flourished, now celebrated as the place that stood firm against criminal intimidation. Guests returned, loyalty restored, and Memorial Day weekend became the most profitable in the property's history. Laura and I emerged stronger, our marriage grounded in mutual respect for each other's integrity and courage. Her brilliance as a federal task force leader, paired with her unwavering ethical standards, reminded me why I had fallen in love with her 15 years ago. The case had broader repercussions as well. Federal-local cooperation became a model for rooting out corruption in small communities. Nonprofit audits tightened and similar fraudulent operations nationwide came under scrutiny. Pine Valley, once a town overshadowed by fear and corruption, became a beacon of vigilance, accountability, and community strength. Jack Collins, once a spoiled teen, completed his community service with quiet humility. Richard Collins served his sentence, reflecting on the lessons learned from fear and complicity. And Christina Collins. She discovered, too late, that money, influence, and connections cannot save a criminal mind from justice. In Pine Valley, integrity and courage prevailed. Justice, as it always does, found its way, and sometimes the most unexpected victories, like a cabin standing firm against corruption, change everything.